Hello everybody, this is Jean Powbarabajagal, and I haven't made a video for a little bit. I need to make part 2 of my contest entry for Larry Graves, the Canadian Stud Muffins video, but I'm still waiting for a couple records to show up before I feel I can do it more appropriately. And I kept changing my mind too. You know, you'd say, okay, I'm now just going to do 6 more bands, and I like too many bands. That's the problem. I'm like, oh, I should do them, or I should do them. So, of course, wind up buying records in the meantime. And I have bought records in the meantime, and that's kind of what I wanted to share, because, hey, that's what I like to do. So last week, I lost my phone, and unfortunately, I lose major things somewhat regularly. So I had to try and find it and then give up on it, and then I wound up buying a new phone, which, you know, is a drag. I still haven't found my old phone, and I swear it's just like somewhere. And then, you know, I had another day where I lost my wallet, and fortunately that was just at home. So, you know, I kind of will get frustrated with something, and then I'll lose like everything all that week when I'm frustrated and disorganized. And now let's just hope that we're back to normal. But that was one reason why I haven't made a video recently, is I didn't have a camera for a few days or something. Now I have a spanking new camera that doesn't have like a broken screen, so I can actually see this image a little better. And I'm going to get new glasses soon. That's going to be even more fun because my old glasses are really scratched up. So that's enough of basically what's been happening with me. Oh, sorry, one more thing. This week I was going to go see one of my favorite bands of all time, NRBQ. And I had tickets to 2 shows, and it's just been a case that lately I've felt less and less comfortable going to concerts during the whole COVID era, and a lot of people at my workplace have gotten sick lately. So I'm wearing my mask more than some other people do, and avoiding doing things that I used to do all the time, like go to, you know, 20 shows a year or something. And I keep buying tickets and then canceling out. And I did that with Sparks. I was going to see them about 3 times. I only saw them once. The Darkness I did see, and I saw Alice Cooper, but both of those I really considered canceling on. And now with NRBQ, the show was the other night. Heard it was really good. That was the more convenient show for me to go to. I haven't taken time off work to plan for the next one that's coming up, and I'm really on the fence whether to just at the last minute decide to go up there and see them, but I think I'm probably going to skip out because I'm broke. I'll be totally by myself, and, you know, I've seen them a lot. I've seen them, I don't know, 15, 16 times, who knows, since 1988. So sometimes it comes down to it's just not a great time to go, and I've seen them a lot, and when they get home, I'm gonna, you know, order some records from them to make up for it, because I don't have the money to buy any merch, and I like to support bands I love by going to the merch table and at least getting a button or a pin or an album or something. I like it to go directly to the artist if possible. And since I buy so many things used that nobody gets any money for anyway. So there you go. I've already spent 4 minutes talking about my latest issues and things, but it kind of sucks when you're not going to see your favorite band and you were planning on it. So instead I bought some records. So you want to see some? I've also bought some things by mail. Let's look at the vinyl first. Okay, I'm going to pull out a stack here of things. Like I've mentioned before, there's a consignment shop kind of near me. There's also a consignment, basically an antique small type place that has some overpriced records up, I don't know, an hour away from me on the island. And I've gone through them maybe 3 times since I've been here. I know there's some good stuff in there that isn't totally overpriced. I mean, there's things that are like $80 or whatever that don't need to be $80, and more than that even. There's some things that are multi-hundreds of dollars, $250 for something. I can't even remember what it was. But then, you know, when people price things really high, there's often things that they don't price high that are things I'm still interested in. So I weeded through all of it on my own time one day last week and decided to kind of splurge, and I bought 1 or 2 things that were a bit pricey. So here's a random assortment of stuff from that haul, and then an earlier one at the closer store that I go to a little more regularly that's a little more sane about their prices. Let's see, some of these I hope I didn't show before. I was just trying to watch my more recent video. I cleaned up my room and put a lot of stuff away, you know, when I was trying to find my phone. And so I know some things I filed that I won't be showing you, but here we go. So let's see. I've got a Fabulous Thunderbirds album, you know, T-Bird Rhythm. This is one that I don't know at all. I kind of like to get albums that are a little before a band's big hit record. You know, like usually their big hit record is a couple albums in. So I like to see kind of what their first album or second album was like. So, you know, I know the album that has Tough Enough on it. This is earlier. I also know that, of course, now I can't remember. Besides Jimmy Vaughn, who's famous as a guitarist, Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother, Kim Wilson, I know, is really well known for being an incredible harmonica player. So I have a collection by the Fabulous Thunderbirds, but I like, you know, like the Blasters or something, getting one of their early albums. And then I got Graham Parker's Squeezing Out Sparks. I'm kind of thinking I showed this before, but maybe I didn't. Graham Parker and the Rumor. I thought I'd talk a little bit about some of the stiff label artists I have, because I've been trying to fill that in a little more lately. This, I got Little Steven's Voice of America. Heard this is really good. Never had that album. Then there's a band I really don't know much about. This is newer. The band is called Spoon. The album is called Ga 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 Ga. And I think this is from like 2009. But of course, it looks like they're from the Chapel Hill area. So I'm curious about that. I'm kind of assuming it's sort of an indie power pop type record, but one of those bands that I haven't heard of, but looks like they've been around a long time, like probably 20 years or 15 years or something. I got Rick Derringer's All-American Boy with Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo. You know, of course, he was with Johnny Winter and Edgar Winter on lots of recordings, and I know that's supposed to be a pretty good album. Never had a actual Rick Derringer album except for a Greatest Hits a long time ago. And I got a Rick Nelson album called Intakes. I have had a couple Rick Nelson compilations, and I think he kind of doesn't get enough credit for being, not only, of course, on Ozzie and Harriet, he was kind of like a teen idol, early rock and roller. And then he had sort of a later career as a country rock musician with around the time of Garden Party and a little before that. Then in the early 80s, he kind of was part of doing some of his rockabilly revival stuff. And I think all that, from what I've heard, it's all pretty interesting. And he's one of those artists I think gets kind of forgotten. So I also found the Garden Party album there. So I was going to listen to that. Rick Nelson and the Stone Canyon Band. And it's on MCA. Of course, it's famous for being a song about him playing a big comeback show at Madison Square Garden and name dropping John and Yoko attending, and was a minor hit, major hit, minor hit. Found this Mahavishnu Orchestra Birds of Fire album on quadraphonic vinyl. I think it was about $5. It's a little beat, but they had another excuse me for saying that incorrectly, Mahavishnu Orchestra album there that I meant to go back and get, but it had sold, so this was the only one left. You know, John McLaughlin, again, me and jazz, I have to work on it because I've heard more names than heard actual music, but plan to explore that. Also, in that same haul, I got You're a Big Boy Now by the Lovin' Spoonful. I am a big fan of the Lovin' Spoonful, and I've had this soundtrack before this soundtrack and the soundtrack to What's Up, Tiger Lily. I've had the whole catalog in the past except for their last album. So I'm, you know, grabbing a couple of those. I found Hums there as well, which was definitely the first album of them I had. And Dan Hicks and his Hot Licks, Striking It Rich. I like a lot of songs on this album. Never had this album though. So I kind of learned about him when I was hanging out with Rob. He's a big Dan Hicks fan. You know, as a performer, he was really an oddball. So rest in peace, Dan Hicks. Very much a throwback, even though he was part of the San Francisco scene with his band, The Charlatans. They were kind of a throwback to 30s jazz and, in a way, vaudeville, too, definitely. He would do kind of little dance routines on stage, and they all kind of dressed like flappers and stuff like that, so it's pretty cool. I found another world music album, King Sunny Ade and his African Beats, Live Juju. I remember hearing about King Sunny Ade in the 80s, and that's my first record by him. I've got a lot of Fela records, but and then I've got, you know, various compilations of Afropop and stuff. And I got Robert Palmer's Sneaking Sally Through the Alley. So this was on Island Records. I think it's 1977. 1974. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I know that's supposed to be good. I've never had that album either, but I used to see it all the time. So way before Addicted to Love, which is, you know, kind of the Robert Palmer I remember, MTV and the Power Station and all that. But initially, I didn't like that stuff, and now I kind of like his older stuff. So, and I found Dr. Birds and Mr. Hyde. So, later Birds album. I'm trying to get more Birds albums, and you'll see I've gotten a few things. Yeah, this one, what year is this? I want to say it's like 69, is that right? I think it's right before Ballad of Easy Rider, which I have on CD. Maybe it's right after. So, more country rock kind of era Birds. And let's see, what else do I want to show you next? I got Steppenwolf's For Ladies Only, which has the gatefold. It also has a lot of, you know, somebody owned this and put little stars and pen all around it. So they put little stars on the back too. It's in decent shape. I mean, the cover's worn, but I'm glad to get that record because I know that's supposed to have a longer version of the title track. And yeah, you know, for $5, that's pretty cool. Also for $5, I found a copy of Elliott Smith's From a Basement on the Hill, one of my favorite albums of his. However, it's $5 because it's supposed to be a double album and there was only one record in here. But it's in great shape. You know, maybe just at some point I'll run into the album I'm looking for, the vinyl record I'm looking for. It's got actually a dented corner, but otherwise it's in great shape. And I found Wings London Town, which has a big ink blot on the cover. Not horrible, but, you know, noticeable. And otherwise, the LP is in great shape, like mint. And that's nice, because I had this on 8-track. That's the only way I've ever had this album. And I don't have an 8-track player anymore. Haven't had one since, I don't know, 1990 or something. So, yeah, that's going to be fun to listen to. And I got a copy of Ian Hunter's You're Never Alone with a Schizophrenic, which is a great album. Oh, that's such a good album. You know, all the real classic rockers of his. Cleveland Rocks and, you know, Just Another Night. Ships, of course, is on it, which Barry Manilow covered, had a big hit with. Bastards on this. Standing in My Light. I mean, this is just one of his best albums. And he made a lot of good albums. This was great to find. So I like a lot of 60s punk rock, and the Pacific Northwest was really known for 2 bands as far as 60s garage punk rock. First, there was the band called the Wailers. Now, they were a different band than Bob Marley's Wailers, but they had a hit with Long, Tall, Cool One, right? Tall, Cool One. Is it even on here? Can I say it properly? It's not on here. And then there was also another band called the Sonics, who I may have talked about before. They had a couple albums that are garage rockers. Love the Sonics because they're just a screaming, primitive, great band. And I was really, when I moved to Athens, Georgia in 1987, I met a record collector down there who told me his favorite band was the Sonics. And I was really impressed and shocked that anybody would know who the Sonics were outside of the Pacific Northwest, because they'd get played on oldies radio up here, but that was it. I didn't realize they were hip, according to garage rock collectors around the world. I mean, there's people in Norway who are huge Sonics fans. And I got to see a Sonics reunion in 2008, I think. Yeah, 2008. Which was pretty great. Glad I got to do that. But they were on a label called Etiquette. And this is a compilation on Etiquette Records. The LP is beat up, but that is the Etiquette label. And it's got that little guy with the top hat. So this is a Wailers album called Wailers and Company. So it's really kind of the Wailers plus... Sorry, I got to put this back in its sleeve. There it is. And I've seen this album before, but, you know, if it's in good shape, it's one of those $100 albums. And this is something that they, you know, didn't have, since the record was kind of thrashed, they did not have it marked very high. So I'm picking that up for my collection. I think it was $8.99. Which to me is a steal, because this, even if I'm listening to some crackling, this is cool. Has the Wailers doing Louie Louie, or actually it has the Wailers doing a song called Seattle, and then let's see. Let me get this out. There's a version of Louie Louie on here by Robin Roberts. There, it says that there. He is the original writer of Louie Louie. That's the original version. And then the Kingsmen, of course, who were from Portland in 1962, made it the big, huge rock hit. So this is the original one. And I think I've had the original one on compilations before, but it's just cool to get it on this Etiquette album, which I think that album's probably about 1964 or 66. I'd have to look it up, but it's definitely a mid-60s album. Okay, then I got this one at that place that overprices stuff. Spartacus by Triumvirate. And there's the rat in there, and or actually he's a white mouse. He's in a light bulb. So Triumvirate, as much as I know about them, this is from 1975. I want to say they're a German prog rock band, but I know their lead singer, what's his name? Let's see if we can find his name here. Oh, doesn't look like he's the writer. So they were German. Yeah, their lead singer went on to sing on a bunch of Michael Oldfield records I like, the early 80s albums, like, he had a hit with Shadow on the Wall, where this guy was the lead singer, and he kind of has this metal voice. So I wanted to get one of the Triumvirate records because of that and check them out. Okay, another one I got is Tape from California by Phil Ochs. And that is on A&M. Here, I should do this. That's what I should have been doing, right? Hey, you learn. A&M. I've had this album in the past. This is from Phil's later period. It's not so much a folk rock record. It's more of a songwriter rock record. But it has Joe Hill on it, which is, a 7-minute straight up union organizing folk song. Really good one, too. But then it's got stuff, and it's got When in Rome, which is one of those epic Phil songs, like just as good as any Dylan song like Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. I mean, there's some great songs on this album. I always like Tape from California, White Boots Marching in a Yellow Land, Half a Century High. I mean, this side one is incredible. This is just a really good album. One of his, I think, more listenable albums. I have a little trouble with his later stuff because it can be really heavily orchestrated, and he's real. I don't mean to use the word schizophrenic with someone who's had some mental illness, but, back and forth as far as what kind of music you're listening to. He tends to bring in a lot of classical kind of orchestration, and, he never really was a real rocker. So some of the arrangements that have kind of folk rock or whatever elements, it doesn't sound as natural as Dylan. I mean, Dylan, once he got a band, that sounded like him. It kind of sounds, Phil just wasn't much of a rocker, but great songs. Oh, and his voice is always so good, and the songs just tear your heart out. So one of my more favorite Phil Ochs albums, and I just kind of need to fill out my collection again. I kind of ebb and flow where I would like to have all the originals back. And there's also a lot of albums by him that are kind of compilation albums. So then I got these. I've never had these albums before. McGuinn, Clark and Hillman. And I got the one that I think came right after it, City. So both of them I kind of was getting for the Gene Clark songs. I think he's less involved on this because they call this McGuinn and Roger McGuinn and Chris Hillman featuring, or what? Featuring Gene Clark. So I just know that I kind of need to go and listen to a lot of the later Bird stuff that I never heard. You know, some of their solo stuff. I had a couple Roger McGuinn albums at one point. I had Thunderbird, which has his version of Tom Petty's American Girl on it. But I don't know Gene Clark's solo stuff that much. So picking up what I can. Duane Eddy album I found. $1 Million worth of twang. And here he is again, more guitar stuff. So he's got a Gretsch. He's got this Danelectro, and then an acoustic and a banjo there. So that's pretty cool. Some comp, shows a whole bunch of other Duane Eddy releases on Jamie Records. So let's look at this cool label. It's a little worn. Yeah, there's the Jamie label. Again, something at that one store where things were overpriced, and that really wasn't overpriced, so I grabbed that. Three Dog Night. I got a couple of Three Dog Night albums. This one, Suitable for Framing, which has Eli's Coming, Easy to Be Hard, Lady Samantha, Elton John's Lady Samantha. You know, they were a band that was a little before my time because, you know, I'm 55, but they just ruled top 40 radio in the early 70s. And, you know, you go look at any jukebox when I was growing up, and there was always Three Dog Night songs on it. And that was before I was that aware of rock and roll. So much of what they did were fantastic singer-songwriters, you know, doing the kind of the clearinghouse thing where they got everybody from Elton John to Randy Newman to, you know, Paul Williams to whoever, and would cover their songs. Kind of like the Turtles. The Turtles did that too. Okay, and the Monkees. I got this Three Dog Night album, which I'd never seen it without the big, huge Band-Aid over the back of the cover. Hard Labor. So it's, you know, someone with a, I don't know, weird mask on with chicken feet pretending to be a woman giving birth. And they've got this record that they're pulling out. And, you know, you put the big Band-Aid on it and you think it's going to be something obscene. And it's, I don't know, pretty tame by my standards. But it's a pretty cool looking album on the inside. There's this, let's see if we can show it, medical file where it flips out. And you can see more pictures of the band, and then there's fake stuff in the file. I'm sorry, this is not very visible, but yeah, I never had seen the inside of that. I just always saw it with a big old Band-Aid on it and said, what the hell is that? So, 2 Three Dog Night albums. I got a couple things in the mail as well. Some, like I was saying, I was going to go see NRBQ. So a while ago, I got their new album, Dragnet, which has the Dragnet theme on it. They've done the Bonanza theme. I mean, they do anything. It's pretty good. I was going to play it a whole bunch because I thought I was going to the show, but I've kind of been bummed out, so I hadn't. But I also got this, which they have a Christmas album, and I've never owned it because I'm not a big fan of Christmas music. But I love the cover of this album because it's what the band supposedly got for Christmas, waking up one morning to go downstairs and see what Santa had left them. And there's this sparkly drum kit with hollies on it and candy cane NRBQ that Tommy's got. Joey's got a big stand-up bass that he got for Christmas. Al got this really cheesy looking guitar with tinsel all over it. Probably some sort of Danelectro. And Terry, keyboard player, got an accordion. I just love, they're all in their pajamas. Of course, it's got the, red and green lettering. That's just about as NRBQ as it gets. That and the back, of course, has them all in Santa hats. I love that cover. I think they get an award for that cover. At least as far as being funny. I got a couple old favorite albums of mine as far as alternative type music. I really like this hard band called Big Black. And I love the cover of their album, Atomizer. Here it is. It says Earth, Atomizer, let's go, and matches. So you're supposed to, send the missile to Earth and blow it up. This band is kind of a guilty pleasure band because, like, I don't know, Motorhead or Tool or, really hard metal band or something. They've got that hard punk rock thing. They use a drum machine, but they're really abrasive in, to me, a good way. Of course, they're also kind of offensive and whatever, but I wanted to show you, I also got some 45s. This 45 I got from them. They did a cover of The Model by Kraftwerk, and they did a cover of Cheap Trick's He's a Whore, and this was the sleeve, which is pretty good. I mean, Big Black kind of pull off the Cheap Trick look really good there. Looks a lot like their first album, and then here's they are for The Model. They pull off the Kraftwerk look just about as well, too. They also covered Wire's Heartbeat on one of their records. So if you don't know Big Black, you might check them out. I mean, I just love their sound. It's really industrial, but they're obviously, music fans. If you like hard music, I think they're great. Steve Albini produced the Pixies. I want to say Surfer Rosa. I think it was either Surfer Rosa or Doolittle. I think it was Surfer Rosa. And he became known as a producer to an extent. And Kurt Cobain got him to produce In Utero on the basis of liking that Pixies record. And then Steve Albini became kind of a known producer after that, though he has a band called Shellac. And Shellac just are playing here too, and if it wasn't for COVID, I'd go see Shellac. I've never seen them, and I actually don't have any of their records, though. I'd like to check them out because I like the Big Black era stuff so much. So that was that I got in the mail. I also got Gang of Four, Songs of the Free. This is my favorite Gang of Four album, and I've been kind of frustrated in that it's really hard to get on CD right now, so I just broke down and got the vinyl. Gang of Four, well, like Wire, I think their first three albums are incredible and influential, and there's a lot of bands I like that kind of came in their wake that sound like Gang of Four. They have that heavy drum and bass sound that's, people say danceable. I just think of it as driving. It's this great driving punk rock but not, I mean, Big Black to me sounds like a band influenced by Gang of Four. And then some other bands I like Pylon. And I wanted to talk about Pylon. I'll talk about them in a minute. Would be a band that was influenced or sounds like Gang of Four, kind of around the same time period. So here's some other things first that I got as far as vinyl pickups. I got some 45s. I got a Conquistador Procol Harum 45 from the live album with Salty Dog on the B-side. I got an Apple sleeve. This is kind of worn, but I still picked it up for, you know, $3. Another Day by Paul McCartney, and I think A Woman Oh Why on the B-side, you know, just to have the Apple label and the Apple sleeve, even if it was a little worn. They had also in that pile of 45s Michael Nesmith and the First National Band, Joanne, backed with One Rose. So this is a 45 from Magnetic South. It's in great shape, just the sleeve is a little torn. And then this was the thing I kind of spent some money on. It's a Byrds EP from the 70s, or maybe early 80s. But it's got Lover of the Bayou. Sorry, can you see what's on here? I have to turn it around to read it. Going Back, Chimes of Freedom, So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star. And what this is from, it's on Columbia. It's got a Byrds logo on it. Pretty interesting. It's put out in conjunction with Scholastic Books, which, you know, I used to get a bunch of Scholastic books when I was a kid. They would sell them to schools, you know, little thin books. So this was something that came with the, it says, lyrics to the songs appear in the paperback book The Byrds by Bud Scopa, available from Scholastic Book Services. So this kind of came out at the same time as that book, and it's a Columbia Special Products thing, but I bet this is pretty rare. I mean, how many people bought that? It's got a bird. This bird is a hummingbird that they've shortened the beak on. I know that because I'm a bird geek. What else can I show you? Oh, I got these in the mail. I love the band New Order, who were Joy Division originally. So I was able off eBay to get this Joy Division box set. And then at the same time, there was a New Order box set that came out. So I got them as a lot on eBay for pretty decent. I think it was like $50. You know, they're not mint, but both are just fine as far as playability. Have, you know, booklets and all this. Yeah, so that fills in a lot of holes on my New Order and Joy Division collections. I have more. I also bought some Joy Division CDs off eBay. Let's see, what else have I gotten? I got a Midnight Oil comp that I found in a record store. I got the Grand Wazoo, Frank Zappa and the Mothers. Or is it just Frank Zappa? Yeah, this is Frank Zappa and the Mothers. So yeah, I've never owned this one. I know that's more of the kind of classical, right? Classical or jazz ones. I know that. I got the Toy Dolls. This is like comedic punk rock, British. Dig That Groove, Baby. They had a song called Nellie the Elephant. This is something I know from Rob, like the Dickies or, you know, kind of the Revillos. So that would be that type of, you know, early 80s, late 70s punk rock. Cure, Disintegration. So this album, I used to play when I worked in a record store, but I always felt it was really long. There's some songs I love on it. And then lately I was going back trying to figure out what other Cure albums I wanted. And I decided I wanted to get Disintegration again. So I was playing it in the car the other day, and it's pretty good. That said, I'm wondering if I want to go get a remaster, though, because some of the sound on it might just be digital, bothers me. Probably would be great with it. And I saw there was a big, huge re-release of it. And then I got k.d. lang's Hymns of the 49th Parallel, which was her album. I used to have this, her album where she covers Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, Jane Siberry, Leonard Cohen, Bruce Cockburn, Ron Sexsmith. Yeah. I think she's really underrated. I used to have a lot of her albums, and I'd like to get them again. I really love Absolute Torch and Twang. That's my favorite k.d. lang album. I think that album's fantastic. And this was really good. It was really good of her, anyway, as an interpreter, to do some all-Canadian artists recording. So I want to listen to that again. And let's see what else we got. Yeah, there were other things I was going to talk about. Oh, I got some Damned albums. Yeah, I got Machine Gun Etiquette. And a while ago, I had gotten the Black Album, which I love. And I got a Chiswick singles comp. That is that kind of era, that right after they kind of did 2 albums and then broke up and then reformed. And I think they made their best albums when they reformed, with the Black Album, Machine Gun Etiquette, Strawberries, and all those singles. Because I had a Best of the Damned comp that was from that era, and I just played that to death. They were a really great punk band that doesn't always get mentioned in the same breath as like the Sex Pistols and the Clash. They were definitely up there. And speaking of that era of punk bands, I'm a big fan of the Slits. And I got Return. This is Return of the Giant Slits. There's also an EP called Revenge of the Giant Slits that I have. I have their album Cut, too, which is very reggae, and this is a little more Afro-pop. But I love Cut. Cut's one of my favorite, British punk albums, if you'd call it that. The Raincoats are similar to the Slits. Palm Olive from the Slits left and joined the Raincoats. There they are. But I like the Slits the best. And I found a couple of They Might Be Giants albums. So I now have Here Come the ABCs. And Here Comes Science. They Might Be Giants. I had their first 4 albums and kind of got a little less interested in them. I love those first 4 albums. And I think their quality kind of dropped off in the mid-90s. And then they did this album called No, that is supposed to be kind of a kids album. It's for kids and adults. But honestly, their kids albums, here are the 1, 2, 3s, are some of their best albums. There's some great songs on here. I mean, They Might Be Giants, so I was reading something earlier calling them geek rock. Definitely, nerd overtones or something. Then you get into the big discussion of, well, how much of what I like is nerd rock, if you want to go there. and I would say a lot. You know, that could include Sparks, that could include so much of what I like. But they really flaunt it, let me tell you. Songs about science and songs about, you know, just being eccentric for the sake of being eccentric. But there's good music in here. They're talented songwriters. Yeah, you know, I've talked so long. I was going to talk about, well, I'll show you the other thing I got. I got these John Mayer albums, which I haven't listened to yet. I was looking for this one, Continuum. And then for $2 each, I got the ones that I've been warned not to listen to, which are like apparently his earlier pop albums. But I need to check them out. I don't even know those songs, so I'm going to listen to those. I was going to talk about Pylon because I mentioned Gang of Four. The Mighty Pylon. Athens, Georgia band. The B-52s were big in Athens, Georgia. They were the first band that came from Athens, Georgia. They went up to New York. They had a friend named Jeremy Ayers who had been in the Warhol scene. And Jeremy Ayers co-wrote some of their early songs. He also co-wrote a couple songs with REM and helped REM also break into the New York club and radio scenes. And that helped both of those bands get more established. So in between those two bands, there was a band called Pylon from Athens, Georgia, who sounded kind of Gang of Four-ish, kind of Talking Heads-ish, slightly amateurish, but they had that driving beat thing and kind of an eccentric front woman who sort of David Byrne-ish, Vanessa Briscoe, later Vanessa Briscoe Hay. But my favorite album by them is their first one, which is called Gyrate. I should have my 45s out because I love the covers of the 45s. The one that just has like a traffic cone on it. Pylon, Cool Dub. I love that 45. And Beep, which is off of this album, Chomp. So that's their second album. And then they broke up. They went out opening for U2 and the Police, and they just decided they didn't want to be that famous, so they broke up because it wasn't fun anymore. Then they reformed, and they did an album called Chain in the late 80s, and I could have gone and seen them then, but there was, when I was down in Athens, there was kind of a mix-up where I wasn't able to get a ticket, so I never saw Pylon. Really wish I'd seen Pylon. I think they are performing with Vanessa without the rest of the band. Some of the bands passed away. As Pylon Reenactment Society, they do Pylon songs down there. Vanessa's really a good performer, though. And then, let's see, I've got this the other day. Two-Tone Collection, A Checkered Past. So this is the label Jerry Dammers of the Specials started, so he could put out his band's records, and then it became more of a collective. So bands like Madness had their first single on Two-Tone, and The Beat, which in which in the United States and Canada was called the English Beat, but over in the UK they were called The Beat. This is a fantastic album, one of the best ska albums out of this group. And also a band called the Body Snatchers, which later became, they were all women, and they became a band called the Bell Stars. I don't have a record by them, but there was another band called The Selector. Their first album, Too Much Pressure, I used to have. I'd like to get that again. They came out on Two-Tone, so a lot of those songs are on that, and I just wanted to, again, give a shout out to Madness, This is a great album. This is more like a Kinks album. Um, really, really good album. I think Madness are another forgotten, underappreciated band because everybody thinks of Our House. They were so much more than that. They were a great band, very influenced by Prince Buster from the 60s as far as ska. Prince Buster, Madness even kind of rips off a lot of stuff from him. A lot of things like, the One Step Beyond thing comes from Prince Buster. Their first single is called a song called The Prince, so it's a big tribute to him. But he was a 1960s Jamaican ska artist. He was on the Blue Beat label. So here's a comp I have of Blue Beat records from the 60s, early 60s. All Jamaican in origin. Here's the Specials. Here's my Specials first album. This is like a deluxe one, like the Madness album I had. And here's another English Beat compilation, The Beat. Oh, the other artist that was really influenced Madness was Ian Dury. Ian Dury and the Blockheads, also on the Stiff Records label, formerly in a pub band called Kilburn and the High Roads. The Blockheads were incredible musicians, and Ian Dury was one interesting guy. And since we're talking about the Stiff record label, I had talked about Nick Lowe and Elvis Costello a while ago. I wanted to bring up Reckless Eric. Oh, Reckless Eric's great. He had that incredible voice, and he's a really good songwriter. He's still active today. He's made a lot of albums in the recent years, but this big smash release, I think this might be out of print. The first album is the Big Smash album, and the rest is his other Stiff era singles and album with Whole Wide World, Take the Cash, Hidden Miss Judy, great Semaphore Signals is on here, Final Taxi. He plays around. I was able to see him a couple times in Seattle. He and his wife Amy Rigby, who's also a great songwriter. Well, I've talked for like 52 minutes. I was going to show you one other thing. Might as well. Nobody's here. So I'm going to move some records over. Like I've been buying music gear. I bought off an eBay sort of site. I think it's called Mercalli. A thing that somebody had made, where they made a pedal board, pedal case. I'm going to see if you can see this. So they had this pallet and made it into a box. So this is a pedal board. So I've been trying to construct. It's got it came with a power source, an Amoon power source that is underneath, and then all the cords come up and you plug all these into the power source. So this pedal I got I want to say a couple months ago. This is a Ditto Looper. This is supposed to be something that really helps you learn to play guitar to yourself. You tape a loop and, it's just a simple few measures of a chord pattern. And then it repeats that endlessly, and you can practice to yourself, practice like lead guitar type patterns over a loop of chords. Have I really used it yet? No, I have to figure out how to plug all this in still. But I've been getting a couple cheap pedals. There's a guy on YouTube on the 60 Cycle Hum channel. He has created this thing he calls the Afford-A-Board. So he recommends pedals that are inexpensive that you can find that are actually good pedals. I had a couple of Danelectro pedals, Fab series pedals a while ago, and a lot of them got wrecked. because I had them in storage and they got wrecked in the flood. They got corroded. But two, I have that pink one was the one survivor, and this one I got for like 15 bucks. This is a delay pedal. That's a fuzz pedal. This is a little reverb pedal. I'm interested in getting like some of the tiny little ones used, you know, so they're more down in the $15, $20 range. So that's a reverb pedal. And this is my Voodoo Octave pedal. This should be good to use with a bass guitar. And I've got a overdrive pedal coming in the mail that was pretty cheap. So you there's Velcro here. You stick some Velcro on the back, and you know, stick them on here, and then you can hook them all up, hook them down into a power source, and hook the power source into the wall, I believe. So we're getting there. I'm just gonna get, you know, I don't know, some basic things to muck around with. So I'm proud of my little pedal board thing I haven't quite got figured out yet. Okay, I think I'm gonna cut it here before we get to an hour. You're not there. I know nobody's there, but have a good day. Bye.